today. What a gift for you all to be here. I'm really grateful, and especially to Zoya for helping put this together, and all of the speakers who brought together, and people, in the room. It's so meaningful to me, and I'm really grateful. And I wish that my dad were here to see this. He was my hero. He was a retail banker. He was brilliant, he was generous, he was full of passion, and he loved people. And unfortunately, when I was 18, he died by suicide. So, I would say that hopelessness killed him. He was hopeless, and he didn't know how to manage his hopelessness, and so he chose to end his life. And, it then almost killed me. So when I was in my early 20s, I too tried to take my own life, and, thankfully failed, and I'm here today doing the work I'm doing. But my wish to have him here is just a wish. And that is what most people think of when they hear the word hope. They think of a wish. But hope is so much more than a wish. It requires both feeling, you've got to feel good, and you've got to take action. You've got to know how to take action in life. But we're never taught how to do this. And most people don't even realize that you can measure hope. So you can measure how hopeful you are, and you can actually practice skills to become more hopeful. And hope impacts everything. It'll impact the workplace, your health, your life, your relationships, how long you live. So much is impacted by hope. It's key to life. So it was about 10 years ago I started studying hopelessness. I worked in global mental health for 20 years and really started looking at suicide prevention truly from time of what's causing suicide, and hopelessness is really the single consistent predictor of suicide. Not dealing with it at a time of crisis, but true prevention. So I started studying hopelessness and figuring out how can you teach hope. At that time, it was just kind of a theory that you could teach hope. They were measuring it, but they weren't actually teaching it. So we were able to prove out that theory that you actually could teach hope. And as we increased hope, symptoms of anxiety and depression decreased. Hope is a protective factor for anxiety and depression. So we created, the first global evidence-based program that teaches hope as a skill called Hopeful Minds, and we provide it at no cost to communities around the world. It was recognized as an innovation by the World Bank, and it really teaches how to hope. So we talk about hope in the abstract, but how do you actually hope? And we've created this framework that we call SHINE. So when we talk about hope, we teach stress skills, how you kind of identify and manage that stress response. We look at happiness habits, so what are those healthy kind of long-term habits? Singing is a great one. Inspired action, so how do you kind of set goals, like overcome obstacles to goals, create new pathways to goals. Nourishing networks, so why our networks are so key to our hope in life, and the fifth is eliminating challenges, so how we kind of stop those negative thinking patterns like internalizing failure, rumination, worry, those things that get in the way of our ability to hope. So, we've been teaching that around the world, and we're now activating cities around hope through our Hopeful Cities program. And we really believe that there needs to be a UN resolution for an International Day of Hope because it's so important. And that we need to change the conversation around hope, take it out of the abstract and get people measuring their hope and practicing skills to become higher in hope, because we know the outcomes, and you'll hear the outcomes as it relates to hope. And hope is also key to goal attainment, being able to reach goals. And the United Nations is all about sustainable development goals, and how do we move forward as a community and collective to create the kind of world we want to create. And we can't do that if we're hopeless. So you'll hear from amazing people doing really incredible work related to hope, and hear personal stories about hope, which are so very important to the work we're doing, and then also learning about hope. There's a recent study put out by the CDC that in the US alone, 57% of teen girls are persistently hopeless. And we know the outcomes as it relates to hopelessness: addiction, self-harm, violence, anxiety, depression, suicide, all of these things, and hopelessness is so high. So it's really time for us to work together in action. You know, hope is more than a wish. Hope takes action. We've got to work together in activating hope globally. And so again, grateful to Walmart supporting in the work. And you know, what I've realized about hopelessness is I would stay in a state of hopelessness if I kept wishing my dad were here in this room. So, and it was expected that I would become hopeless, in despair and in helplessness, because of course I couldn't bring my dad back. But what I could do is I could work on regulating my emotions, and I could work getting from helplessness to action. And what I needed in my life, you know, more than anything, were dad-like figures in my life that served as mentors. And Tom has been one of those, and I'm grateful that I get to introduce next Dr. Belfer, who's been just an absolute angel in my life. He is a Harvard Catalyst. He teaches at Harvard Medical School. He worked for Joseph E. Murray, who's a Nobel Prize winner in science for the first human transplant. Pretty amazing, and he talks about how Joseph used hope science. And so I had to find a way and other people to help serve as a role of father to me, and that is what Dr. Belfer's done. Like, we wouldn't be where we are with the work on hope without his support. So I'm really grateful to have him here and bring him up.